good evening and welcome to our third in our series of Bearsden Baptist Church Desert Island Discs. My castaway this evening is someone whose life, I would suggest up until now, has been a preparation for the role he's begun just a few short, turbulent weeks ago. That preparatory journey included a life thoroughly engaged in the life of the church, the work of Christian mission, involvement of SU camps and leading them, and heading up a charity organisation. He has a passion for music and a gift for playing the piano and the cello, which he's done particularly in a wide variety of worship settings. He's an accountant by profession. So with such an eclectic variety of skills and experience, earlier this year he was appointed CEO of SU Scotland. And no sooner had he got his feet under the table and everything changed with coronavirus. An appointment made for such a time as this. Welcome, Robin MacLellan, and thank you for agreeing to be our castaway this evening.
Good evening, Roddy and friends at Bearsden Baptist. Thank you very much for the invite.
Well, it's great that you've been able to join us, Robin. How does the thought of being a desert island castaway make you feel?
Feel very honoured, to be honest. I'm not quite sure it was on my bucket list up to this point, but it probably would be quite soon. It's an absolute honour, especially for someone, as you say, who is very passionate about music, to have the chance to share some of my kind of favourite pieces with a wider audience. So yeah, looking forward to this evening.
The only problem is, Robin, on a desert island, you don't have an audience. You're there on your own. Do you think you'd be a coper in such a situation as that?
I think I'd be okay. Yeah, I'm slightly more towards the introvert end of the spectrum. So yeah, I would look forward to that opportunity.
Yeah. Now, your life began, if I understood correctly, in the Scottish border town of Peebles, and you were certainly the experience of church life was really very full from your earliest days. Can you tell us a little bit about those early days in Peebles?
Yeah, sure. I had a very kind of straightforward but hugely blessed upbringing, I think I would say. Peebles is a fantastic wee town in the borders, just on the River Tweed. It's a lovely place to go and visit, spend a day trip. And yeah, growing up there, I didn't realise what a very scenic and pleasant part of the world it was. But that was just normal, and church and Christian life was a huge part of my upbringing. My mum and dad, Jim and Ruth, had moved through from Lanarkshire to Peebles to build a new life there when they got married, but really feeling God's call to go and plant a church there. So yeah, from my earliest days, that was very much a big part of their life and my life as well.
In your early experiences of the church there, was that a positive experience for you as a child growing up?
It was. It had a fantastic kind of family feel to it. It wasn't a traditional church, a small Brethren church, and maybe it was just the thing that you did back in the 70s and 80s, but the kind of family friends, the other adults in the church were Uncle John or Auntie Jean, and they kind of felt like extended members of the family, even though we weren't in any way related. In normal terms, but certainly one in Christ Jesus and all that. And yeah, it was a very supportive environment to grow up in and find faith.
Well, that's good to hear. You had a happy and sound early years to your life. Would you like to introduce us to your first piece of music, Robin, please?
Yeah, certainly. I play the cello and the piano, as you mentioned in the intro there, Roddy, and there was a great love of classical music, especially when we were growing up. Mum and Dad weren't hugely into popular music of the time, so we were very much brought up on Beethoven and Mozart and all the classics. And this first piece was one that just somehow really connected with. It probably has one of classical music's most dramatic moments in it. It's Sanson's Organ Symphony No. 3, where the piece is very kind of orchestral sounding, And then literally before the last part of the symphony, this massive organ chord comes out of nowhere and blows you out your seat. And I just remember as a kid having this, it'd probably be a cassette tape back in those days, on repeat, a big set of headphones on, and just away in another world with this symphony. So yeah, fantastic piece of music.
Well, let's hear that now then, thanks. Well, that was Sansong's Symphony Number 3, the Organ Symphony, and I'm sure there'll be not too many people still sleeping after that. That is an introduction this evening. That was great to hear. In your life in the church in Peebles, Robin, I think you very quickly, you weren't just a child in the congregation, but you became quite an active participant, particularly through music. And from the age of 14, I believe you were playing the piano for the services, which I think was probably a bit of a challenge. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, no, it was a real kind of priesthood of all believers experience, if you like. Everybody had a chance to muck in and use their gifts, and yeah, that was a great experience, especially in the context of a small Brethren church where the Sunday morning service was an open worship service. So there was no prepared order of service. It was literally people contributing something as they were led that we could sing or read or pray together. So you had to be on your toes and ready to play any of 1,000 songs from the couple of hymn books that were used for that. So yeah, it was a great chance to make a lot of mistakes, but learn and grow in a very supportive environment that's stood me in good stead in lots of other musical contexts since. And
at school, you did get involved in the Scripture Union a bit at school, but that wasn't a fantastically exciting experience for you, was it?
No, it was not. I was, from memory, the only boy attending, and it was not at all the cool thing to be doing. So much so that I avoided the main stairway to the mass class where it was held, and went about a half-mile round trip up the back stairs so as not to be seen going to the SU group. So yeah, not something I put on my application form for the CEO role, I have to say, but yeah, I can certainly feel the pain of a 16-year-old boy that would rather be seen dead than seen going in the door of the SU group.
But very soon, as you went through your teens, you were not just playing in a sort of traditional church music setting. You were really quite a variety of musical genres you were involved in, and some of that must have been really quite exciting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really thankful to God for the serendipitous connections that were made. Partly through the church music scene, but other things at school and uni as well. And how I had a classical training, but also the encouragement and the chance to improvise and play by ear a bit more was kind of the best of both worlds. So yeah, one of the early things that has had a huge lasting involvement was connecting with Stephen Fishbacker, a guy in Edinburgh who was very much pioneering Christian music for kids, especially primary age and below. He's put together many albums over the last 25 years, played on most of them, and has a phenomenal rapport with children and young people. So it was a joy to have been part of his team, both recording and doing lots of live gigs right across Scotland.
I mean, clearly music has been such an important part of your life. Do you think music affects your faith, or is it a means to express it?
Yeah, both and, I would say, I think, Roddy. And as a worship leader or a church musician, it can be double-edged because it takes a lot of concentration to play your parts well, play in a band effectively. And it's all too easy to kind of miss the worship dimension because you're focusing on the music and the mechanics. But I certainly find even just at home, if I stick on some worship music, I really find it hugely helpful in connecting with God and yeah, just kind of softening my heart, if you like. Just getting out of the mindset of the everyday and connecting with the supernatural. It's an amazing gift, I think, from God, and we've got folk like Bach who came out with the most extraordinary compositions, all to the glory of God, and they would say very much inspired by God. And I think there's a hugely close connection between faith and music for that reason.
You used the word eclectic there, and I'd like to invite you to introduce your second piece of music, which I think illustrates that characteristic of your choices.
Sure, and yeah, I guess it appeals to my patriotic side as well. And again, this was one of those moments where you can always remember where you were, where you first heard it. I'm sure there'll be a few fans on listening in just now that will relate to this. Runrig, their live version of Loch Lomond, as included in the album Once in a Lifetime. And the reason for including this track was it was my very first album purchase. And I can remember having Radio Scotland on as a 14, 15-year-old kid, getting the headphones on in a world of my own, and these massive, big, distorted guitar chords that we all know and love so well from the Runrig sound just absolutely blew me away. So again, the combination of the Scottish but also a contemporary rock sound was just a foretaste of heaven for me. So yeah, really excited to hear it again.
Let's go for it.
Where the sun shines on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love spent many days on the banks of Loch Lomond. Just then we parted in yon shady glen on the steep sides of Ben Lomond, with a broken heart knows no second spring. Design we must be while we're parting. Let's hear it. You'll take my love and I'll take another. I'll be in Scotland before you, where me and my true love will never meet again. On the bonny banks of Loch Lomond.
Well, that was the unmistakable Run Rig and Loch Lomond. Well, Robin, there come a time in your life when you had to leave the beautiful border town of Peebles and you headed to university. And despite your great love of music, you did make the decision to study accountancy there. What was your reaction when you got to the big smoke?
I was absolutely blown away. Again, it was one of those, you'll never forget those experiences when my dad had brought me through to the University Open Day and dropped me off in Kelvin Way. And just that walk in the west end of Glasgow, Kelvin Way, up onto University Avenue and around all the campus there, I just had an instant sense of this is going to be home. And yeah, we had a very happy nearly 4 years in Glasgow at that point doing my undergraduate degree.
And you were, while at university, I think you were also still quite committed to Christian things.
Yeah, I got very much stuck in with the CU there and made a huge number of friends and connections, and was heavily involved in SU as a young leader at that point as well. Did their training programs, base camp, and was Crosstalk then, what's Lead Up now, and kind of cut my teeth on helping at the camping events. which was a fantastic learning experience for later on.
And after you'd finished your time in Glasgow, you then went to the dark side, I do believe, and headed east.
Exactly. Yeah, I was back through in Edinburgh. The traineeship I did for accountancy was with a firm through in Edinburgh. And yeah, that is probably the connection with the next piece of music, where one Christmas night out, an enterprising colleague waited till everybody was half canned, obviously not myself, and went around with a clipboard taking sign-ups for a charity parachute jump. And suffice to say, when we were all gathered together on Monday morning to say who was still in for the jump, there was about a third of the original sign-ups actually were willing to follow through. So yes, that was a very memorable experience. I'd let myself in for doing this tandem jump, which was one of those once but never again experiences of my life. Definitely the kind of literal high point at 10,000 feet. Jumping.
Well, I'm glad you've got a piece of music to remember that by. What was that, Robin?
Yeah, well, the Strathallan operation that we're running the jumps for has very kindly put together a little kind of highlights video, and the track that they stuck on that was Tom Petty's Freefall. It brings back all the memories of being strapped to this guy who, as we were in the plane, I was asking him, you know, and what's it you do for a living? My life in his hands. I was obviously kind of interested to know, could I trust him? And he said, well, 6 months of the year, I'm a member of the British parachute team. And I thought, fantastic, what relief. And well, what about the other 6 months of the year? I'm an embalmer by trade. So the full service was available from this fine guy who I was strapped to for the ride of my life. So yeah, Free Falling by Tom Petty brings it all back.
Let's hear it.
She's a good girl, loves her mama, loves Jesus, in America too. She's a good girl, is crazy about Elvis, loves horses, and her boyfriend too. And it's a long day, living in Reseda. There's a freeway running through the yard, and I'm a bad boy, 'cause I don't even miss her. I'm a bad boy for breaking her heart. And I'm free, free falling. Yeah, I'm free, free falling. Now the vampires walking through the valley move west down Ventura Boulevard, and all the bad boys are standing in the shadow, and the good girls are home with broken hearts. I'm free, free falling. Yeah, I'm free, free falling.
Well, that was Tom Petty and Free Falling, and I'm glad you landed safely. You saw the light again, Robin, and returned to your beloved Glasgow, where you went into partnership there, or an accountancy firm there, for 6 or 7 years. And after that, you then, by this time, you were married, and you headed off to New Zealand. And this was a time where I think you really began to feel God having a particular message for you, and how He was guiding your life. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, it was a really amazing turn in the road, which was quite unexpected at the time. Sorry that having gone 5 or 6 years into professional career, just a real sense of God saying, take some time out. At this point, Rachel and I had been married just a couple of years. Serena, our oldest daughter, was a 1-year-old. And keeping the story short, the door opened up in an amazing way to go and spend most of a year down under in New Zealand and do a short course at a Bible school there and a bit of travelling. And yeah, just to have a bit of a break, actually, because we were probably overdoing it, trying to cram too much in with busy work lives, family life, and church life. At that point, we were part of the church down at White Inns Church of Scotland with Alan MacLellan, and there was a lot going on. And I would dare to suggest that if we'd kind of tried to keep up the pace that we were doing at that point, burnout wouldn't have been far away. And so, yeah, I think it was probably by God's grace that he kind of took us off the treadmill and gave us this incredible experience that ended up being a real pivotal time. As you say, we, in the course of being away, felt actually coming back to just picking up in the accountancy world where it left off was not the way to go. And the very surprising outcome after all that time away was accepting a role at a charity in Maryhill, not far from.
Yeah. Can you tell me how did that come about, Robin? Because there was a kind of sense in which it was all very unrehearsed, and you didn't really see this coming, but you sensed that God was leading you in a particular way, but you weren't sure where. Yeah,
for sure. I had some connections with this charity as their external accountant and an advisor for similar technology, and hadn't really any great connection or rapport with the organisation. But while we were in New Zealand, we were preparing to return home very much to a blank sheet work-wise, and the phone rang in our little rented apartment, and it was the director of the charity at that point, to say I'd really be keen to speak to you, Robin. She was a Christian lady. She was nearing retirement, and she'd been praying about what might happen with the leadership of the organisation, and she'd really felt strongly God tell her to call me up and see if I'd be interested in applying for a job, which was the last thing in my mind at that point. I had always imagined I might join the charity sector later in life, having made my millions and retired early and be ready to give something back. But here was the possibility that age 30 at this point, that I would kind of give up business life and go into something in the charity world. It was not part of the plan at all. But God had other plans clearly, and long story short, ended up getting the job there and staying there for nearly 5 years as their chief exec, leading a team of about 30 health professionals, serving families affected by MS, which was an incredible privilege to be able to do that, and a huge learning curve, very much at the deep end as a young manager.
Do you think, looking back in that, in terms of the job you now have, that in some way God was behind that appointment and giving you some of the skills and experiences that you required for your current appointment?
Undoubtedly, Roddy. It's so humbling that, with the benefit of hindsight, as you said in your introduction, daring to believe that God has been graciously preparing me, not to say that these previous years were just a means to an end. Hopefully they had purpose and value in themselves, but the journey that I've been taking on, that so was not of my making, very much has equipped me with experiences and insights and learning from a whole range of other people who are far smarter and wiser than I was, such that I could consider God's call to take on this role at SU.
Well, before we get to the SU part of your life, well, let's have your next choice of music.
Sure. If I could only choose one genre of music to play or to listen to, it would have to be gospel music. And just heads up to all listening that as and when you get to heaven, it will be gospel music that's playing. There'll be choirs, there'll be Hammond organs. So yeah, better get ready for that. This next piece is not strictly speaking a gospel piece, but it's a kind of gospel arrangement of an absolute classic, Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. And this version as a pianist really grabbed me. It's a live rendition from Paul Simon's famous concert in Central Park in 1991.
Thank you.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, well, I will dry them all. I will brush them all away now. I'm on your side. Times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a breeze over troubled water. I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the streets, yeah, when evening falls so hard, well, I will comfort you. Well, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Darkness comes, the pain is all around. Oh, just like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I'll lay me down.
Well, that was Paul Simon and Bridge Over Troubled Water from his concert in Central Park. Well, after 5 years with MS support in Mary Hill, Robin, you then moved on to Scripture Union in 2009. How did that come about?
I had been volunteering with SU since my student days and got involved in leading summer camps especially. And then met and married my wife Rachel through SU Connections, and we were doing various things together as volunteer team leaders. And when we came back from New Zealand, began a really rewarding period of 10 years when we led a music camp for SU every summer. And that was just a phenomenal coming together of both my musical passion and my excitement about sharing the gospel with children and young people in an SU holiday context. So when the chance came up to join the senior management team at SU, a vacancy arose back in 2008 that felt like a really good fit with my background and experience at that point. Jumped at the chance to join the organisation that I was most passionate about, volunteering and getting paid to do SU holidays, which was an absolute treat.
Those 10 years or so that you were in that role were a couple of quite challenging times for SU financially in that time, and I wondered how you saw that from a, shall we say, a spiritual point of view.
Yeah, it's not unique to SU by any means, isn't it? Every charity is on something of a roller coaster in terms of funding and just balancing the ins and outs of the finances. But I have to say, it's just a huge testimony to both God's goodness and the incredible faithfulness of the SU family, that whenever we did hit a particular low point, the response was just incredible. And just time after time blown away by the generosity of God's people. And very often it's the widow's mite, as they say, very small donations, not just the big 4 or 5 figure checks, but the provision very often just when we need it. We had an extraordinary experience. Some of you may know of the Gowan Bank Centre down in Ayrshire, which we were gifted but needed significant adaptation before it could be used as an SU centre. And there was a crunch moment where we had to make a decision, don't we go for it? And literally 20 minutes before the finance committee meeting, an email came in with advice of a massive 5-figure gift out the blue for use where it was needed most. And just these kind of moments solidify not just the wisdom of the decision, but the sense of being very much guided and provided for by the Lord.
Yeah, it's great to hear those moments. What's your next choice of music then, Robin?
Yeah, this one is inspired by my wonderful wife, Rachel. One of the musical legends that she introduced me to, because I hadn't particularly got into Dire Straits, was Martin Knopfler. And so yeah, the theme soundtrack to Local Hero, which I'm sure is familiar to many listeners, became a brilliant album for us, and especially the wild theme, just such a haunting Celtic melody, was the piece that we chose to come down the aisle to. So let's hear that now.
Great stuff, thanks. Well, that was the unmistakable theme tune from Local Hero by Mark Knopfler. Well, earlier this year, Robin, you were appointed Chief Executive Officer of SU Scotland. I wonder what qualities you think you need to lead an organisation like that.
Well, a bit of courage for one thing, not least with the situation that we've all been thrown into, as you said earlier, Roddy. Feel very blessed to have the opportunity to lead an organisation that has meant so much to me and so many others over the generations. My first contact with SU was actually as, I think, a 9-year-old. My mum was a very keen leader of summer camps. So it's been a huge part of my life right from a young age. And so there's certainly plenty experience there, plenty passion for the role. There's a bit of a business head. The apprenticeship training comes in very handy on a regular basis. But I think hopefully the thing that overrides all these things is just a real passion for the gospel and sharing that with the next generation in a way that's accessible, that's engaging. And we've had to almost reinvent how we do ministry in SU over the last few weeks. As you can imagine, all our usual programs and face-to-face activities are on pause or postponed. And we've had to take a lot of stuff online to YouTube and Zoom and other platforms. So it's an incredible moment for, I think, the church at large. We're seeing that with how we've all had to adapt, but an incredible interest and curiosity from people that haven't perhaps thought about spiritual things before, realizing that we're not in control of our own lives and God is there and is only a prayer away. I think it's an incredible time to be holding out the word of truth of the good news.
I would suggest that SU Scotland, in terms of a Scottish context, probably has the potential for the biggest impact of evangelism among young people of any organisation at the moment in our country. And I just wondered, thinking maybe 5-10 years ahead, what do you think are the main challenges for SU in that time?
I think continuing to engage new generation of volunteers is a challenge, but there's again a terrific pipeline. Young people growing up through the events, some finding faith for the first time or developing their talents and skills are part of that. And as an organisation, I just say we're massively thankful to Bearsden Baptist for the close connections that we've had with many in the congregation. I know that John and Karina have set an incredible example with how they've been involved in local schools, and others have been heavily involved in all sorts of issues, activities. But I think one of the key things that we wouldn't want to lose is that emphasis on empowering ordinary Christians to use their gifts in their local community, in their local school, on a holiday situation, just giving up free time and talents to give kids a fantastic holiday, and keeping it relatively simple, as well as embracing the digital age, keeping a really strong emphasis on the relational aspect. I think so key to demonstrating the reality of Christianity. It's not just theory or knowledge, but it's a lifestyle that's very much impacted by Christ.
Well, I'm sure we wish you well in your role, Robin, and hope God's rich blessings in all you do and that He guides you in the years to come. Let's move on to your last choice of music. Yeah,
this is possibly the only one of the 6 with an explicit faith connection, but felt only right to include this piece. I love contemporary worship music. I love both being led by others and singing just as part of a congregation, but also having the privilege of leading and playing and leading others into God's presence. And there are countless fantastic worship songs that feature, I'm sure, at Bearsden Baptist, as well as my own church in Torrance on a regular basis. But this one seems to have just a kind of special touch. It's one of these ones that gives the chills, as it were, just that sense of incredible meaning. And an issue in our vision statement, we're talking about exploring the Bible, helping Jonah explore the Bible and respond to the significance of Jesus. Well, this song, better than many, I think, really just focuses on his significance. It says, "Is he worthy?" And I hope prepares my heart, prepares us for what it's going to be like in heaven when we're gathered round, as it says in Revelation, gathered round the throne, and everybody bowing the knee, and every tongue confessing that Jesus is Lord. This song very much conveys a picture of that in a fantastic way.
Let's hear He Is Worthy. Chris Tomlin.
Do you feel the world is broken? Do you feel the shadows deepen? But do you know that all the dark won't stop the light from getting through? Do you wish that you could see it all made new? Is all creation groaning? Is a new creation coming? Is the glory of the Lord to be the light within our midst? Is it good that we remind ourselves of this?
Well, there we've completed the last of your 6, Chris Tomlin and Is He Worthy? I have to ask you now, Robin, if you only were able to take one of these 6 tracks, which one would it be?
It's a very tough call, Roddy, as always, but I think because of the combination of Scottishness and connection with my wonderful wife, Rachel, it would have to be the well theme from Local Hero, Martin Knopfler.
Great stuff. An accountant with a romantic heart, eh? A rare thing. And you already have the Bible and Shakespeare with you, and if there was a book you would like to take, what would that be?
Yes, well, it's one that I haven't read before. Rachel and our 2 girls, who are very keen readers, have been recommending it strongly, and I've been put off by the size of it, but The Count of Monte Cristo would be the book I would take, I think, because I might finally have time to actually read it. It's about 1,000 odd pages, so that would be my desert island treat. That
is a wonderful story, by the way. A great book. And you have one luxury to take with you. What that might be?
Yeah, well, if I can bend the rules and include a solar panel for the electricity, then I would definitely take my stage piano. I've just upgraded to a new one recently, and yeah, the chance to sit on the beach and just twiddle about on the piano all day would be heaven on earth for me.
I think we can allow you that. Well, Robin, thank you very much for being our castaway this evening, for sharing your music and, more importantly, your life. And I'm sure that gives us an opportunity to pray in the future in a more informed way for you in the vital role you have with SU Scotland. And we hope that God will bless you richly in that role. So thank you very much for agreeing to be with us this evening. Just a reminder that in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have our final guest in the series, Alistair Henderson. So please join us for that, and we look forward to that in 2 weeks' time. Good night.